Hi, my name is Sanjeev Nair. I am a technology strategist working with Microsoft focusing on business productivity. So in this demo, I would like to take you through an overview of Power BI from a end user perspective. So typically, if I'm an end user, IT would have shared a bunch of reports with me, a bunch of dashboards as well as data sets. And what I would like to do is I would like to interact with reports, possibly create new reports, new data insights. I would want to maybe ask questions. I may not have the right report which has been shared with me, so I may want to ask natural language questions to those data sets and then get more insights into the data. So as I said in my previous session, Power BI is all about end user BI. As an end user, I would be able to, without understanding the technical details around data structures and SQL and stuff like that, I have the ability to drill down into the data, ask and get more insights into the data automatically. So right now I'm in the uh, web version of Power BI. So if you go to powerbi.com, you will be you have the ability to have a free license of Power BI. You can sign up and get a free license of Power BI, or if your company uses Office 365, you would see a little icon here called Power BI in your Office 365 app panel, and you could just go to Power BI right from there. So over here, if you see my desk, when you come into Power BI, you see a few things. You see on the left side, you see workspaces, you see dashboards. You can expand on all the different dashboards you have, reports, as well as data sets. Now the workspace is where there's two types of workspace. You could have a personal workspace and a group workspace. So this is my personal workspace. You could have also have a group workspace where people are working together in a group. So that will come in here under the group workspace. So that's basically the group workspace is built on this notion of Office 365 groups. So across Office 365, there's this notion of a group where group can have conversations, group can have a plan together, and a group can have obviously dashboards which are shared together. So the concept is the group is a bunch of users, and in Office 365 it surfaces different ways in different workloads. So if I look down, let's take a look at the first thing here called the dashboard. So the bunch of dashboards here, if you see on the left side, there's a little icon which says shared with me. Those are dashboards which has been shared with me, and the others are dashboards which I own or which I created. So let's take a look at a dashboard which I created, or maybe it's a sample which I imported, but end of the day I own it. So and when you go to the dashboard, you see a bunch of tiles here, and each of these tiles you can actually expand it out, or maybe you can exit the focus mode. And as you can see, it's highly interactive. For instance, in this particular visualization, if I hover over this line chart, I get insights when I hover over each item in this line chart. And then there's different types of visualizations. You can see these are all tiles which are pinned into this particular dashboard. Now, if you click on this this three dots on the top, you can do a little bit more with this data. For instance, let's say if you want to get real insights into this uh, particular visualization. So what Office 365 does is you got this notion of insights where using machine learning, the Power BI can actually find automatic insights about your data. So if I click on Get Insights, you would see well, in fact, it's searching for insights related to this particular product. It's going to take a few seconds for it to come up. But the concept here is, it's basically, finding using machine learning patterns. It's basically providing insights to you. It's it's not things which you, it's basically, it could be insights into the data set which you otherwise may not have seen. Looks like it's taking a little bit of second for it to come up, but let's maybe I'll just come back here later. But I think you guys get the idea. I can also do a bunch of other things. For instance, I can pin this visual. I can export this data out, and I can get more details around the styles. So again, if I there's another dashboard here. This is the procurement analysis dashboard. It looks slightly differently. Again, there's a few other things you can do. And one other thing I can do in this particular dashboard is this notion of alerts. So for this tile, I have the ability to create an alert rule. For instance, if in this particular tile, it's enabled for alerts. So let's say, for instance, the discount reaches a particular threshold, or basically it could be, in your case, it could be something related to sales, where if the sales amount for a particular quarter or particular territory met a specific threshold, you can get alerted. It could be an email or something like that, which you get an alert for. Um, and obviously there's other things, other information I can do. I can export the data. I can get I can change more details around the tiles and things like that. And as you can see, each of these tiles are different in a visualization. I can like, for instance, if I get into the this particular visualization, it looks slightly differently. When I clicked on it, it essentially drilled me down into a report. And this report is highly interactive. For instance, let's say for this whole IT spend overview, I'm only interested in hardware. I just click on hardware, and as you can see, all this information across this particular report filtered based on the filter I provided. Okay, now if I go back to the dashboard again, this as you can see, and I have this different types of dashboards, different types of tiles pinned into this dashboard. So the other interesting way for you to interact with this data is using Q&A, or a natural language Q&A. As you can see right here on the top, you see something called ask a question about your data. And this is where you can ask natural language questions around the data. So maybe if I take, there's a bunch of dashboards I have, and each of those dashboards have the same feature. For instance, if I look at the sales and marketing, I can maybe ask a question around total units by state. So pretty much, what I wanted to find out is, give me all the total units by each state within United States, for instance. And as you can see, it showed me a map kind of visualization, because it figured out that a map visualization may be the best visualization for you to, see this data or visualize this data. And you can further go ahead and change this. For instance, I want to have a different visualization. Maybe I want to have a different map visualization where I got each of the state, and then I have got a color code, for each of the state, instead of that little circle, which is in fact a little bit more better visualization, I think. And as you can see, I can hover over each of the state and see how many units have been stored in each of those states. And I can also, go down and add more data to it if I want. Let's say if I change it to a different visualization, I got this total units by state. and then maybe I want to see it by year, right? So I can see every year how that data has changed. Again, by click of a button, I can see every year how many units have been sold. Or maybe I want to see the product category, right? So let's say across the rural, urban, youth, I want to see how many units have been stored. So I can, find a visualization like this, or maybe uh, in this case, let's say I take this visualization, and once I like what I see, I can simply take that and then pin that visual. And what happens is, you have the ability to just pin that to the existing dashboard. So essentially what you're doing here is you are asking questions, asking natural language questions to this uh, to your existing dashboard, and you're finding more insights to the insights on your data, and you're able to take that and pin it to the dashboard. So as an end user, I'm interacting with this data. I have the ability to find more answers to the data. So it's a pretty intuitive way. As an end user, I don't really need to know the relationship between the data sets. I don't really need to understand SQL or anything like that. I have the ability to just use natural language to interact with the data. Now this was a dashboard where the data itself was stored locally, or this could also be a dashboard where the data could come live from a SQL or some other data source. Another interesting type of data of a dashboard could be a live dashboard. So in this case, I'm looking at the number of cars and in a bridge, and basically I'm looking at the average speed, by number of cars, and the toll amount and things like that. Uh, if I just wait a minute, you would see that this data is live. It's updated live. Let me just So as you can see, this average speed has just changed. The average speed or the number of cars is going to change, because this is going to in every few minutes, every few seconds, this data is updated live to this dashboard. So essentially, we are using behind the scene using a REST API to update this information live, and this data could come either from a data set where you update via code directly, or it could be coming in from Stream Analytics, where you have this real-time data which you analyze, which where you use some logic to analyze real time, and then use that to push it into the data set, so into this dashboard, and you have the ability to see this information real time or live. So this could be an example of a use case for a real-time dashboard could be an assembly line, or it could be a plant, or where you are capturing using sensors, you're capturing information about different machines, and if a specific machine or an assembly line has got an issue, and if you want to be alerted immediately, and if you want to see in real time how many how many items you are going through this assembly line, where you want to see that real-time view, this could be of extremely useful, because you don't really have to, you know, uh, uh, refresh this report to be able to see that data. Now I have the ability to also interact with the same with these dashboards using my mobile phone as well, or it could be mobile device. So this is the Power BI app in a Windows phone. Obviously, this is available in Android as well as iOS as well. Uh, and obviously, this particular dashboard is designed to leverage the real estate which you have in the phone. So I can actually swipe through this report dashboard and see each of these elements in here. I can click on each of those tile, and then and then pretty much interact with each of the styles. So let's say, for instance, I can use swipe as well, or maybe use my finger to kind of navigate through this particular report. I can go back, and I can, again, the same thing, I can go to each type of report. I can filter if I want to as well. And you can be really creative when you build these kind of reports, or dashboards for mobile devices. It's extremely easy. It's the same exact dashboard which you saw. It's just that it's designed to render better in a mobile device. And I have the ability to, let's say, invite other people right from here, from my screen as well, if I want to pretty easily. I have there's a bunch of settings here. I can connect to my Power BI, or I can get more information directly, pretty easily. So I think using this the mobile experience is extremely critical when it comes to interacting with these dashboards, because a lot of times you may be, let's say, you are commuting or you're traveling, and if you want to get some quick insights into the data, getting a mobile experience would absolutely be the right way to go. So now let me go back and take a look at a few other things. So over here I was talking about dashboards. Now if I want to create a new dashboard, obviously I can click new and create a new dashboard, and then go ahead and start pinning information into this dashboard. That's pretty easily. Now if I go down, right, the other things which you see here is reports. So if I want to create a dashboard, I should have already some report shared with me, or I should be creating a report. I should have created a report. Now I have some reports right here. Let's say if I look at the procurement analysis, again, this is the report which we used to build the dashboard earlier. I can interact with this report again. If I hover over, I have the ability to interact and see more information around each element within this report. The report could have multiple pages. As you can see, this report has 2 pages. Again, it's interactive, so if I click on a specific item, everything in this report gets filtered. I can interact it in, I can sort the data. I can I can get a much more focused view by drilling down into into each tile. I can take that, and let's say if I want to pin it to a dashboard, I can easily do that by clicking on pin dashboard. So right now I'm in a read view in this particular report. So in read view, I can essentially change some filters and everything, but I cannot do much. But if I want to edit and do a little bit more on this report, I can essentially click this edit report. Yeah, and edit reports gives you a lot more options on how you can interact with this data. For instance, if I want to get a different visualization, I can change that. I can maybe have a globe visualization, or a different whatever type of visualization I want. Or if I want to add more data, or more fields to a specific tile, I can do that right from here. Or I can, as you can see, I could add more filters. I can add page level filters, report level filters, visual level filters, all that right here. So based on the type of tile or report you're working with, you have different date filters you can do. You can change the axis if you want. If you want to have a different axis, like x-axis and y-axis, you can easily do that as well. You can also change the legend, the color, what color you want to use, what style you want to use. All those things can easily be changed. And I can also add, let's say right now out of the box, it provides you a bunch of visualization. Let's say if you want to get a new visualization, you can go to powerbi.com, download a visualization, import that file in here, and then use that visualization to change the filter as well. And then, if you want to add a text box or, something like that, or change some stuff, you can do that right from here. And then if you like it, you can just go ahead and pin this page to the dashboard. Now I can print this, I can publish this to the web. When I say publish to this web, what you can essentially do is you can get an embed of this report and then embed that into a web page, and pretty much with anybody who's got access. Anybody who's got public access to the internet will be able to view that, because you're just essentially embedding that report into a page. Or you can save the copy of the report as well, or there's a few other options with respect to how you can fit it into the page and things like that. And I can obviously flip back to the reading mode pretty easily. So that was a way in which you interact with a report. Obviously, essentially, let's say if you have a data set, you could go ahead and create a report and then create a dashboard by go ahead and pinning each of this tile to a dashboard of which you create. Now the other thing, most important thing is the data set. So the data set is where you're essentially sourcing the data, and this data set could, depending on the type of this data set, you have a lot of options. So let's say, for instance, the data set is coming from a cloud source, or maybe like an on-premise data source. You have the ability to schedule a refresh or get quick insights into this data. When I schedule a refresh, what would happen is, let's say if this data is coming from a SQL Server analysis services on your on-premise, you can schedule a refresh to say, hey, every 5 minutes, keep this data refreshed. Or I can go ahead and refresh it now, so it's going to be the latest real-time data. You can also analyze that in Excel, because this is an Excel data set. And what's interesting is this quick insights feature. We touched on that a little bit when we were looking at insights in dashboards. With quick insights, what's happening is it's automatically looking at this data set and using machine learning. It's basically trying to find out interesting insights about my data. So if I look at the procurement analysis, it found some interesting insights. It said that payment terms is trending upwards, so that's an interesting insight. It said that 2013 and 2012 have noticeably more discount savings and compared to other years. So that may be an interesting insight. And this could maybe teach you more things about your data, right? So things which you've otherwise not noticed, you could learn more about the data, which essentially it's kind of reading your mind and doing things for you, right? It's you're not doing the hard work of drilling down onto the data, but the system is automatically providing insights for your data. Now that's good. So we went through dashboards, reports, and data sets, and how you could create dashboards out of reports, how you can essentially change modify a report, and you also had this data set. But how do you create a report from scratch using this web user interface? So the first thing you would need is to get data, and once you get the data, you would have a data set, and then using that you can use this report designer to create a report. In fact, you can do all that from the web. So when I click on get data, there's different ways in which I can get data. So it could be from my organization. So when I click on my organization, what you see is essentially within your organization, your colleagues or your IT pros have shared some data sources with you, and that is what's going to come here. So there's a bunch of data sets which your company would essentially share with you, or you can go ahead and get data from uh, from the from typical SaaS applications your company has subscribed to. So it could be, Salesforce, or it could be Dynamics, or it could be Mailchimp. So essentially, what happens is when you go ahead and click this, it automatically brings a bunch of content packs. So you don't really have to do anything. All you do, as far as you have a credential to your to, let's say, for instance, Salesforce, it brings back a bunch of what we call as a content pack, which essentially has a list of reports, data sets, everything provided for you. So you don't really need to do anything when you do that. Or you can maybe a better way to get data is, let's say you have a CSV file, um, or an Excel file. You can actually put that in your OneDrive for Business, for instance, or OneDrive Personal, and then get the data from there. Again, this data set also could be live, so it could be whenever the data gets updated in your Excel file, or it automatically gets updated uh, uh, in the dashboard or in the report. Or you can connect to live data to Azure SQL database, Azure SQL data warehouse, or SQL Server analysis services pretty easily. But so this is what you get when you come into this get data from the Power BI. But this, you're certainly not limited to this data set. You can connect to any type of data sets. That's where the Power BI Desktop would come into picture. So Power BI Desktop is a desktop edition of Power BI where you can go ahead and create these reports by connecting to this data. And I have another deep demo where I go through a lot of details into Power BI Desktop. But what would be interesting here is what kind of data you have access to from your Power BI Desktop. So there's a lot of data sets you can connect to. It could be Excel, Access, Terra database, SQL database. It could be an R script, which would be interesting. So as you can see, there's an R element to it. So it could be so you can do advanced data science right here. And then it could be Azure online services. So there's a whole lot of data sources you can connect to, and you can connect to live data as well to these data sources. So there's a lot of options in connecting to this data set. And so when you create this report, you could either create it using the Power BI desktop right here, or I can just go ahead and then just use the web view to get the data, and then connect to the data, and then see that view the data sets. So now let's go ahead and take a look at this data sets, and then maybe drill down a little bit into it. So there's a bunch of things I can do. I can do schedule refresh. So this is all the details of all my data sets and the things I could do with this data set. So depending on what the type of data set I click, I have the ability to either refresh, and it provides me the refresh history. And you can also do things like modify Q&A, as well as Cortana access. So with November 2015 update of Windows 10, we allow Cortana integration with the dataset. So essentially what happened is when you go ahead and ask some questions right here, so you would be able to see if you have enabled Cortana, you will be able to view a Cortana view of that report. So you can create a view, Cortana view of your report, and that will come up there, or it'll just pick up the right visualization automatically. Over here, I can also add featured questions, and if to allow Cortana, all you need to do is go ahead and just click this button to allow Cortana to access this data set. So that's pretty much it. And I think maybe the only other few things I would suggest you guys to do is just go ahead and just, go through each of these elements within your Power BI, looking at things like creating content packs, gateways. And I have another session where I talk in details about gateways, how you could, embed your report in other websites, We also have information on dev tools, like let's say for instance, if you want to create a connector to any other data source, you can certainly do that by writing code. And then there's a bunch of downloads here, like Power BI Desktop, the Data Gateway, and essentially one of the things you'll notice here is that this is constantly being updated, right? So this is a service which is just constantly evolving. So you will see a lot more features, and maybe by the time you see this video, you might see a lot more features in Power BI. So it's a cloud-based service, and that's the essence of of a cloud-based service is the fact that it's constantly evolving. So that is a quick tour of Power BI, the web version, and a high-level view of how an end user would can interact with dashboards, which has been shared with me, or possibly create a new report and dashboard, all from the browser. Or maybe if he's feeling good, he can certainly go to the Power BI desktop as well, and then create a dashboard and then share that into this web view. That's it for now. Thank you so much.